Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Every Calorie Counts podcast. Today, we're going to go through some questions that I had left over from this week's IG Live. Most of you know by now that we go on Instagram Live Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. with Steve and Matt. But this week, I had Katie send me a bunch of really good questions, and we figured they'd be good topic of conversation. Should I just throw one out there and start?
Word. Yeah, might as well, right?
Okay, I'll go from the top. Any personal age preference for clientele?
Uh, I don't really have a personal age preference. I just think that it's it goes one way or the other sometimes. Sometimes you get that person that's a little bit older, and they have when I say a little bit older, I mean relatively speaking to the majority of our clientele. Maybe they're in their late 30s, early 40s, late 40s, early 50s, in that range, between like 35 and 55 for us, I would consider is the back end of our age demographic, right? But like sometimes those are the clients that have the most obviously the most maturity, right? They know they're here for a particular reason because they haven't been able to accomplish something in their life
Yeah.
potentially, or they're looking for more maintenance or whatever it is. And the bottom line is they just do what they have to do, right? There's not a lot of questions about, this, that, and the third. Sometimes though, it's the exact opposite with that
Yeah, I was
group,
just gonna say.
where where they haven't, kind of gotten the results that they wanted, but it's because they've had all these excuses that they continue to give themselves. And it's, oh, I have work, I have kids, I have this, I have that. There's a lot more responsibilities. But again, on the other side of the spectrum, as far as the younger clientele, while they might have more freedom and the ability to get more done, the reality is they also don't have the maturity level sometimes to
Mhm.
understand where they need to be. I just had a client who I'm going back and forth with right now, who basically sent me a message on Thursday saying, "Hey, man, between money and my ability to be able to stick to the plan, I think I'm going to have to cancel." And it was literally one of those ones because he's only been with me for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. And we've had a lot of back and forth about the reality of him. Like he's literally not 2 weeks in a row stuck to the plan. It's always something where he's actually in Arizona in school. So it's one of those things where it's like literally every week is like, oh, I got hammered and then I ate like shit. Oh, I got hammered and I ate like shit. Oh, this thing's coming up with my friends where we have to go party. I'm like, you don't have to do shit like that. You know what I mean? All you have to do is stick to your plan. Because he's also the guy that sent me the whole intake information about like, I want to get shredded. Like I've never been shredded my entire life. I want to see this through. I want to get shredded. And there was very real back and forth communication when he started about like, I'm in this. I'm committed. I want to do this because it was like, dude, you sure you want to go in this and like get shredded, or should we go in it and like take our time, build you up, eventually get to a point where we get shredded? And he's like, no, I want to go gung ho. I want to, transformation, blah 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 blah. So I'm like, okay, if you think you can handle it, we'll dive right in here and try to get you shredded. You know what I mean? And it was just this back and forth of like zero consistency, to the point where usually if somebody messaged me and says, "Hey, do I need to cancel?" I'll just fire back right away and be like, especially when they bring up money, no problem. I'll cancel your billing. Doors always open. Anything you need, feel free.
Yeah.
In this case, I basically had that conversation with him where I'm like, dude, you spoke all this shit, right? And you took zero action. And like,
Mhm.
you're going to essentially walk away from this and you've garnered nothing that's going to make you better as an individual. You got no results in terms of your physical. You've got no results in terms of your schedule, in terms of your habits, in terms of your routines, right?
Mhm.
So I think it goes both ways, and we could like pick the epitome of each demographic with particular clients that we have, where it's like one is 42 with 3 kids and their own business, and they'll use all these excuses that they can make up every single day about why they're not healthy. And then on the other side of it, we have people that are like, oh, I'm here for this reason, I'm going to get jacked and shredded and all these different things. I have all the time in the world to go to the gym and cook my own food and be ultimately responsible for only myself. And then they're like, but I'm immature and I want to go do these things instead of reaching my goals. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
it works either way.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add though is like with the right younger client, like if they're coming to you fresh, it is nice to kind of teach them the ropes before they've been jaded in any way. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? That it's nice when they're like ready to go. Um, but yeah, no, I agree. I don't have any typical like actual preference. It just comes down to the person's ability to get shit done.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's do I'm trying to think. I'm trying to make them like mush them together that it makes sense. Okay, this one's quick. Favorite meal to eat currently?
Honestly, I would have to say this last week and a half, maybe last couple weeks, my steak meals, anything with any type of like, I found a good brand of like filet or
You know what I'm gonna
sirloin.
say?
Um, do I?
My tacos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Literally, I'm obsessed with my tacos. I definitely go through waves. Actually, Katie can definitely relate to this. She has had the same what is it, like chicken fajita soup or something, like chicken tortilla soup or whatever she's making for months on end. And like I see it in her chronometer and I'm like, bro, are you ever not gonna have this soup? Like I go through stages of like being obsessed with soup, but you literally have had this every single day for the past like 4 months. And I was dying laughing, like, because she's like, no, it's so good. It's so good. But I haven't seen it this
Tortilla
week. So that's
soup,
really
huh?
cool. Yeah. Sounds pretty fire, but yeah, I find it funny. Like Matt makes fun of me because I go through aggressive phases of like I'll be obsessed with something, have it twice a day, and then I'll just like change over. But soup is one of those too. Um, have you ever had a client that is slash was unable to incorporate the gym into their schedule?
Yeah, I have a couple clients right now that are unable to incorporate the gym into their schedule. And that's, sooner or later you have to be realistic about what you can and can't do, because we were just talking about how some people, kind of fail to meet the standard or expectations that have been set by either themselves or us in order for them to get the results that they want. But sometimes, you got to put in perspective, are we setting that standard expectation too high for people to meet? And when you are taking somebody that maybe genuinely doesn't have the time to be able to go to the gym because they have 3 kids and their own business. To
Yeah,
me, resistance training, while it can be very important and it should most certainly be something that we need to consider when it comes to certain goals like weight loss, getting somebody
yeah,
generally healthy, it's
general health.
not the it's not the number one necessity by any stretch of imagination. In fact,
Yep.
that falls pretty far down the list in terms of necessities, right? Again, sooner or later we want to strength train just for our general health, but like that might be third, fourth, fifth on the totem pole in terms of priorities.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. This obviously is just like applicable to lifestyle clients. Like if you're a competitor, you need to figure it out. But yeah, no, like you said, it's not a necessity as far as we were talking about this with a new client. Just like overall exercising is more important than like going to the gym and resistance training. Like getting your steps in and like some kind of daily movement. It doesn't have to
Yeah, like
pertain to the
activity. Yeah.
gym. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have to pertain to the gym or even resistance training for that matter. Like maybe
Yeah.
somebody is like, whatever, they have a Peloton at home, or they're doing,
Yeah.
something along the lines of, like you said, just daily activity to be able to get themselves kind of like up and moving and be generally healthy like the human body should.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. What are the steps taken? This one's cool. What are the steps taken when a lifestyle client wants to transition into competing? You have plenty of people that have transitioned from lifestyle to competitor.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any type of like, usually by that point, somebody is already living pretty
Already living it.
particular. Yeah,
Yeah.
where they're like, they're immaculate as far as their plan is concerned. They've probably already gotten, like, let's put it this way. I've never had anybody that's gotten no result whatsoever because they haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. All of a sudden, whatever, 3 months in, 6 months in, a year in, be like, I want to compete. It's like
Yeah,
I'd be like, that's kind of delusional.
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's usually that person's pretty much on point. And then from there, it's not really that much of a transition. I would say I'm more aggressive, right? In phase to phase. I would like to, it doesn't always work out this way because, life gets in the way. people might not be ready for it. But in the most cases, especially when it comes to somebody that's new to competing and maybe doesn't have like the best body composition or the best structure, whatever it is, it's usually going to be like phase after phase after phase in some way, shape, or form, right? Like maybe we're dieting them down to get rid of some body fat, kind of see where we're working with, and then we're kind of building them back up. And then maybe we take a short maintenance break there, or we have to clean things up again and then go back into another growth phase, whatever, right? But it's like phase after, whereas a lifestyle client, there might be points in times where it's literally like 8, 10, 12 weeks of like, hey, we're not really, it's more, hey, what's the quality of our nutrition looks like right now? How are we managing life stress, right? Like, how are we doing on a day-to-day basis as far as balance is concerned, or week-to-week basis as far as balance is concerned between a healthy lifestyle and a fun lifestyle, or the things that you're trying to, do to enjoy your day-to-day life, if that makes sense. Like it's not necessarily always about like go, 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 or like some sort of result that has to be at the back end of that for a lifestyle client, right? Whereas a competitive client, it's almost like, hey, where are we within your competitive process and what are we trying to accomplish right now?
Yeah, there's always a cycle. And you mentioned balance, like with competitors, there won't be as much balance as you'd have um with a lifestyle competitor. But like you said, most people that are lifestyle that want to transition into competing already have the competitor lifestyle down, and it's not like some, random thing, and there wouldn't be steps
I
like.
think I think you kind of nailed it. I think the biggest thing there though is removing a little bit more of the balance, right? Or that balance being more heavily weighed towards the lifestyle component of things to be able to get that continued effect that we're looking for
Yeah,
versus the lifestyle client maybe having, a couple free meals a week and like don't really worry about it, go out and enjoy your friends, yada yada
yeah,
yada, whatever it might. Where a competitive client, the conversation is going to be a little bit different every week, where it's like, hey, let's stick to the plan. Like a free meal might be something they get like once a month. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Versus something where it's like, a couple times a week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Dun dun dun. What do typical prep protocols look like?
What does that mean exactly? A
I don't
prep
know.
protocol?
So I don't know if she means like food, cardio, training, maybe supplementation too. I guess everything, because I feel like a protocol is everything.
Training doesn't look any different.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll pull back on some volume as we get closer to a show, but even that is kind of like minute because we're not really doing a ton of high volume training anyway throughout the contest prep. So we might pull back on an exercise or two um, leading into like the last few weeks of a show. But otherwise, training doesn't really look any different whatsoever. It's pretty much the same. Cardio is definitely going to be more. We're going to lean on cardio more, especially at different times. We might even pull out cardio at certain times within a contest prep, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be out the entirety of contest prep. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have hour sessions. It doesn't mean that again, a large chunk of that person's physical activity throughout the course of that prep, if we're looking at it from a bird's eye view, wasn't taken up by cardio. You know what I mean? So again, cardio is definitely going to be something that we lean on pretty heavily. Um, and then nutrition is something that changes more consistently,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's things that are going to be done there, whether it's calorie reductions over a period of time to be able to drive, continued fat loss, refeeds, right? Like there's more consistent updates to be had. And I think that's something that, like if we have whatever, 25, 30-week prep, whatever it might be, 20-week prep, depending on the person, right? It's going to be something where it's almost like there could be, not always, but there could be a lot more adjustments being made where it's really hands-on, right? We have to look at the physique and really take into consideration the way it looks this week versus the way it looks that week. Whereas with a lifestyle client, things aren't really going to change that dramatically. There's very few times where it needs to be very I don't want to say very hands-on because everything hands-on, but I mean like for competitors, we'll check in twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to see how that body's changing within such a short period of time. Whereas with a lifestyle client, there's probably not going to be a necessity to be able to ever look at somebody, 3 times a week and see how their body's changed. It's probably just not going to happen that fast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because with a competitor, we are more aggressive during that stretch of time to be able to meet a deadline as far as a goal. It's not maintainable. We're not trying to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then on top of that, there's also drugs involved. And there's going to be drugs involved at some level for just about everybody, whether it's, lipolytic compounds, right, that aren't hormonal in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still drugs. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
guess you can call anything a drug, really. Like even caffeine's a fucking drug. But,
Yeah.
like clenbuterol, T4, T3, carnitine in some cases, different compounds that we have like that, GH, whatever it might be, like that are just going to be driving specific light fat burning processes or improving fat burning processes. Again, we're going to see a little bit of a change there more dramatically when some of those things are implemented and or increased in certain cases. But then you also have, on the more enhanced side, androgens are involved too. And androgens can also be manipulated, especially getting closer to the show, to be able to drive very specific outcomes in terms of the way that the physique looks. So it's just a more hands-on, more detailed oriented,
Detailed, yeah.
very, yeah. Like I have
That's
a client, go ahead.
that's all I was gonna say is that like everything's just super detailed and controlled and specific.
Yeah. Like I have a client right now that's in her first prep, and we're not even really like deep into prep yet. It's more whatever, primer phase, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it. All right. Like the prep before the prep, essentially. But already she's dropping enough weight for it where it's like she's checking in and now she's flat. And this happened probably like fucking, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks ago now. She was flat. And it was one of those things where it's like, oh, dude, like you flattened out pretty quick. She dropped down to 140 pounds. So I'm like, and she's eating whatever, 160 grams of carbs Monday through Friday, and then like 200 grams of carbs Saturday and Sunday. And I don't know if those are exact numbers, but let's just call it that. So I gave her a couple refeed days, and she checked in. She was flat again, right? So it's like I had to refeed her again, and then she checked in. It's like everything's going well. Now she's dropping pounds again, but she showed up again flat. So like now we have her checking in multiple times a week already. We're not even deep into prep. She had to refeed multiple times, and it was literally like just her last check-in was Thursday, and I literally showed her from the time she came to me and told her she was flat, right, which was about 2 weeks ago now, to today's pictures. I'm like, you see the difference here? And she's like, holy shit, I can't, because she didn't recognize it when she checked in and she was flat. She was happy because the scale was the lowest weight that it had ever been. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, but look at the pictures from before. Like we're missing detail in the legs, detail in the glutes. Like your glutes are dropping a little bit. They're not as full. And then we refed for like 2 weeks straight. And then I showed her the before and after. She's like, holy shit. Like you can see it.
Question for
And she
you.
had,
So
go
that
ahead.
far out, would you say it's still important to like maintain that fullness? Or like wouldn't you want to get her flat, get her leaner earlier on?
Only to a certain extent though. Like how long are you going
Yeah.
to ride somebody flat? You know what I mean?
Then you
And
can
again,
always
it
refeed
really
them.
depends. Yeah. Well, sometimes you refeed at that point and it's just too far gone and you're chasing that look again. And now you have to refeed to such an extent that it's almost like you had to gain 5 pounds. Right. And it's like, I'd rather, especially for somebody that's new like her, she has already a certain amount of muscularity. You know what I mean? Like she's really our client Jen, who you're working with too from a posing perspective, like she
Mm-hmm.
has a really good level of muscularity underneath all
Yeah.
that. All we have to do is kind of refine and chisel that out. So for me with her right now, it's kind of like, does she need to be 120 pounds? Or do we just need to continue to make 140 look better and better and better and better and better and better? And then maybe pull down to like 135, 132, 128, somewhere in there, versus looking at it from the perspective that we're at now, which is like, we got about 20 pounds to go to be lean enough. Yeah, but there's also, again, a good amount of muscle tissue under there. Maybe we just need to this and not lose 1 ounce of muscle, right? If anything, maybe even try to build a little bit of muscle during the process and see where we end up in the next 8 to 10 weeks of going about that process where it's like, hey, let's get flat. Right. Once you're flat, you've been burning fat. Right. There's no two ways
Yeah.
around that. There's definitely been a availability there for you to utilize multiple substrate in terms of glucose and the and fat or whatever. But the bottom line is, as you pull that person down, you start to see it, they get flat. Like I said, for her, it was really recognizable because of how much muscle she has. In some women, there might not be as much muscle. It's not as recognizable to see how flat they are. For her physique was like really like, it
Yeah.
was flat, it was soft, and it's like, holy shit, you're not looking as good as you typically look. Let refeed you put a little bit more in, allow you to get flat again, refeed, put a little bit more in, allow you to get flat again. And what you see over time there is somebody might be at the same body weight, but that same exact body weight is starting to look better and better and better and better and better. But that's also where we don't have a timeline right now that we're working towards, right? Like we didn't pick a show. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, hey, let's get better. And then when we do feel like we're maybe like 10, 15 pounds away, we could just kind of take a straight shot down. Okay, now let's pick a show and kind of, get pedal to the metal type of thing. But right now, the beauty of not having a show date is that we could use that time to our advantage in terms of refining the look instead of just trying to lose weight.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm excited for her. Okay, I think this might be the last one that I have here. Experiences with female clients coming off of birth control.
Ooh.
Hey, the best for last.
Yeah, that one's kind of like wide and
It's
broad.
so
Yeah, wide
dependent.
ranging. I think it really is almost like it feels like it's 50-50. I bet you $1,000,000 if you took, the large majority of women, right? And you took them off of birth control, it'd probably be something like 70-30, 80-20, right? It'd probably be the large majority of them would probably recover relatively quickly and relatively easily, right? So the first month, 2 months off the pill, they'd probably get their cycle back.
Yeah.
Like they probably wouldn't notice much of a difference at all. You know what I mean? You'd pull the pill and they wouldn't notice any difference. And in a couple of months, they'd have their period back and they wouldn't think, once what happens is we have people come to us, right? They either want to come off birth control, and that might be a reason why they're coming to us, or we're explaining to them, the downsides of birth control. And they're like, holy shit, now I want to come. And there's like this stigma attached to it, to where, I just had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday, about, how she's attaching too much of this concept in her mind of like, I'm unhealthy because I haven't got my cycle yet back post period.
Mm-hmm.
And there's almost like this, I think, build up to the reality. And the point that I'm trying to make here is when we're taking somebody off of birth control because they have this fear that birth control is negative for them and unhealthy for them, that there's almost like, we're creating a little bit of additional stress. And because we're so fixated on that and focused on that it might
Yeah,
take even longer to get that person cycle back.
exactly.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, and
Versus if
we've
they,
talked about this. I'm gonna cut you off with Sarah Ford Bishop just like a few weeks back, maybe 2 months back, right here on the podcast, that when she came off of birth control, I don't know if it was IUD, if it was pill, I can't remember. But yeah, it took her like 8 months or 10 months to get her cycle back. And like one thing that she did talk about is like having that like what's it called? Like resistance in your brain, or like making
yeah.
like adding that extra pressure adds resistance to it and makes the process eventually longer.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's also one of those things where, at least in the case with my client, it was like, they're attaching their health to it. So they're like, I feel like I need to get healthy. I'm not healthy. And it's like, well, you're 100% a healthy female right now. Like, yeah, there's
Yeah,
some things on your blood work that we can improve. But at the end of the day, like, you're not at risk of a fucking heart attack here. Like, you're not dying. Like, there's nothing here
exactly.
that's going on where you're like in a disease state or something like that.
Yeah.
So again, I think we perpetuate a lot of the issues, right? In terms of maybe us as coaches, maybe the athlete themselves or the client themselves, in terms of just like not purposely perpetuating it in terms of like driving this hyper focused state, right? But just being aware of it sometimes is in and of itself a problem. Whereas if somebody else was just like, nah, like they heard nothing negative about birth control, they were just like, I'm going to take out birth control. I don't like taking a pill every
Yeah.
day or whatever the fuck the case might be. And they just removed the birth control and they thought nothing about it whatsoever, health wise, right? They probably get their cycle back in a much shorter time frame just because there's no added commitment, stress, etc. there, right? So again, I think if you took the large majority of people, women, and you took them off of birth control, you'd probably see like a 70-30, 75-25, something like that, to where people just get their cycle back more on the
Mm-hmm.
higher end of side than not. But the other side of that is, I think what we really don't recognize sometimes about birth control is that it is in fact hormone replacement therapy, right? Like it is a form of hormone replacement therapy is essentially what's happening there. So you are replacing hormonal function, right? It's though it and now your body, especially when you've been that way, let's say through your early adulthood and into the lifestyle that you now live, whether that is your career, your relationship or your family, as far as having kids, whatever it is that you're in today, right? So let's say you started taking birth control when you were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever it is, right? And you continue to take that birth control. Now you're coming off that birth control. Let's say you're 25 to 32. I'm just throwing out random numbers, right? I gave you large areas there, but like, your life at 25 to 32 is probably going to be significantly different than it was at 16 to 20. You know what I mean? And then what happens there is because you've been on this thing that's been replacing your hormones from such an early age into your early adulthood, the reality is all the stress that you've accumulated into that early adulthood, right? The lifestyle that you live into that early adulthood, that lifestyle and that stress, right? Like, let's say you are a mother of three, or you have a very stressful job, you have a lot of commitments, and you're the person that's up at 4 a.m. every morning. You don't get home until 8 p.m. at night. You're not in bed until 11 o'clock at night. And it's just this constant go, 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 go. Well, realistically, that lifestyle, forget about birth control, could have had a major impact on how healthy your system is from a hormonal landscape perspective, right? But again, it hasn't been very apparent to you, right? A, because you probably haven't had anybody talk to you about it. You haven't looked at your labs, all these different things, even with the birth control place. But again, you've been on this hormone replacement therapy for so long, right? That those hormones are essentially in your body. They are functioning, right? In terms of, or they're keeping your body functioning in terms of these different things, whether that's for the better or for the worse, right? The reality is there are hormones there. So it's basically kind of, picking up the slack almost in a certain way, right? And then it's like, you get to 25, 32 and you have all these, and you want to come off the birth control. It's like, how could you expect your body to recover its own natural hormonal function when even if you weren't taking this hormone the entire time, your function probably would have been
Would be
going down?
down. Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, and we'd be sitting here talking about the fact that we need to clean up your lifestyle to get your normal hormonal function back. But instead, again, you've been suppressing it for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And now we got to try to get it back within the environment that would have created some suppression anyway. It becomes a tough situation to manage. But again, that person's kind of like, in a position now where it's almost like what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You're going to wait
Yeah.
until you're fucking 45. Like, when's your lifestyle going to change to be able to come off and make it better anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it becomes a difficult thing to manage. But at the same time, I think, to answer the question more specifically, it can really go either way. Sometimes it's awesome, it's easy, and there's no problems. Sometimes, we're looking at a much longer recovery period,
Yeah.
anywhere between like fucking, I don't know, 3 to 5 months, all the way up to a year plus to be able to recover somebody's hormones, really depending on that individual's thought process, their perceived level of stress, the lifestyle that they live, their mentality, all those different things play a factor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so dependent. Like I think that there's been a really big shift. Maybe I'm just on this side of social media, obviously, because of how I view birth control and what I think about it. But like I feel like a lot of females are kind of opening their eyes to more of a natural cycle kind of approach to contraception. And like I right now have six female, obviously female clients fresh off of birth control. Well, not really fresh, I guess, but off of birth control. And like, I don't have many clients. That is like 25% of my clientele, which is like insane to me. And everyone's situation is so different because it comes down to the person's lifestyle, their resiliency to stress. It comes down to also the pressure that they're putting on themselves. I think two of them already got their period back and they literally just got off birth control like 2 weeks ago or something. And it was like a really easy process. And then someone else is like IUD, so that's going to be a little bit longer. So it's just really specific to the person, but what it comes down to is managing external like things like your lifestyle, your sleep, your food, your nutrition, your digestion. All these things need to be in line because it's not just about pulling the birth control out. Birth control
Yeah.
isn't the issue. It's all everything encompassing, and the birth control adds to it. So
Right.
yeah,
I think
that
that's
is
something where if
my
you Googled like how to maintain healthy hormonal function, right? Like I don't know what you would put into Google, but like, how to maintain natural healthy hormones, right? And like all this stuff would pop up. I guarantee, you know what? Let's do it right now.
yeah, I'll just pull it up.
Let's see here.
Yeah, it's going to be like nutrition, like your micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. It's going to be sleep.
Yep.
It's going to be, well, a consistent, like regular sleep cycle.
Here, this is just what pops up. Like literally one of the first things that pop up. It's just that little, box that'll pop up.
Yeah.
Here are 10 natural ways to balance your hormones. Eat enough protein at every meal. Engage in regular exercise. Maintain a moderate weight. Take care of your gut health. Lower your sugar intake. Try
Yep.
stress reduction techniques. Consume healthy fats. Get consistent, high quality sleep. So when, in addition to these, light and relaxing exercise such as swimming and walking can help balance your hormones, while short bursts of heavy lifting can release good hormones. Conventional treatments for hormonal issues can include hormonal contraceptives, not what we're talking
No,
about here.
wrong.
Hormonal, yeah, and hormone replacement therapy, essentially putting them in
Yeah,
together like we just
same
were.
thing.
But
Yep.
diet, exercise, and healthy lifestyle changes can also help restore hormonal balance. So again, these are all things that if you're coming to us with a really bad diet, right, or at least years of, let's say it's not a really bad diet, but an unorganized diet,
Yeah.
right? And again, you are the person that's going to bed every night at, like, you're laying in bed at 11 o'clock, you're scrolling on your phone, you'll pass out around like 12 and 12:30, but you're up at 5 a.m. every morning, right? And then at 5 a.m. to whatever, 6 p.m., it's like I'm getting ready for work, I'm at work, and then I'm like, I'm at work and now I'm trying to leave work. I don't get home until whatever, 7 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, I'm already tired. I got to clean my house. I'm trying to make food. I don't have time to go to the gym. So now I'm just like watching Netflix for a little bit, or maybe I'm catching up on additional work, whatever it might be. Like, you're already in that rat race of not doing any of these things.
Anything.
You got no exercise this week, right?
You're
Like,
not eating protein.
You're not eating well at all. Like, you're not doing any type of stress reduction techniques. Like, you're not doing any of those things to begin with to maintain your natural hormonal balance. So coming off of birth control and taking those hormones out, like, you can't expect that environment to then reinvigorate like your natural hormonal production, have the healthy hormonal balance.
Yeah, yeah. And that's another thing. It's like that setup before pulling birth control out is so important too, because if you're already fucked up lifestyle wise and you pull birth control and then you spend the next 5 weeks trying to figure out how to live a healthy lifestyle, that's lost time there. Whereas if you kept the birth control in while you were trying to figure out your life and a good lifestyle, you're probably setting your body up for a better bounce back since you're set up already. Because I did have one girl come to me, already stopped birth control like 2 weeks prior, came to me. We spent the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks getting her lifestyle in line, no period. Once we got that going, period came. So it was like we could have gotten that done a little bit faster if we had that lifestyle set up already.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a really big part of that, because you're right. You're 100% right. And I don't want to take away from that or detract from that at all. But there's also a big component of that is we see people come in all the time. We both have these clients, right? And they're very prevalent, right? Where they're like, well, I already live that lifestyle, so I should be good to take out my birth control. It's like, no, you're different only because you're obsessive over the lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. It's like you have to go to the gym. We're not trying to get you to go to the gym to be more physically active 3 days a week, right? Like, you have to be there 4, 5, 6 times a week. And like, it's a necessity for you. Like, you're like, oh, I'm physically active. And it's like, no, you feel like you need to go for a 7-mile run every time you have something on your mind to be able to clear your mind. Like, now you're again, you might be like, living a healthier lifestyle than somebody else that we just painted the picture of, that's working all day and like doesn't really make time for themselves, and no stress, reduction techniques, yada, yada, yada. But again, the way that you're mentally built, right? The way that your perception is, right? Like, you're physically go, 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 and you're mentally go, go, go. And it might look different than the other person that we just painted the picture over, but it's really the same thing. We're just replacing their job with your exercise, regimen, and the way that you obsess over food and your calorie tracking and all this different stuff. So again, it's really, balance, I think, is the key word there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we hit them all. Let me double check. Oh, I mean, this one's actually Paulina's. Shouldn't shoes you wear at the gym be important for proper form? I think we've talked about this a few times on Coach's Corner with Steve and Matt. But
yeah, shoes could absolutely,
I think yes and no.
Go ahead, explain.
Oh, so personally, I feel that when you wear the higher heeled shoes, like walking shoes or running shoes, whatever, it is not ideal for things like squatting, things like lunging, so on and so forth. But it's not going to be like the make or break thing. Like, when it comes down to it, like, you need to know how to properly train, whether or not you are in a certain type of shoe.
Yeah. So just to clarify, when you're talking higher heel, you're not talking like, because there are shoes that are actually built with a higher heel on purpose, right? And those
Yeah.
shoes like Nike Romulos, right? Like because they're actually at a specific degree, right? They're like a wedge. They're like a squat
Yeah, yeah,
wedge
yeah,
inside
yeah.
the shoe.
Oh,
You know what
I
I
know
mean?
what you're
What you're
talking about.
talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, what Marina's talking about are, they're basically not like literally the shoes that are built for squatting and things of that nature, right? Are almost like legitimate squat wedges where it's like a harder platform.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? To
and you
stand
can
on.
get those things that you add on to your shoe, like the little you slide it over your flat shoe, your Van or whatever, and it creates a wedge for you. Actually, I think Shelly
Really?
has those things. Yeah.
Huh. I have no idea what those are, but I've literally never seen that.
Oh, these are
But
cool
no, no,
too. Yeah, but
but the
these are
bottom
like
line
made
of
for lifting, right?
the Romulos, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they actually
Yeah.
have a wedge inside of it. Whereas what you're talking about with the heel is more along like it's the cushion that they what's it called? The insert.
I don't fucking know.
The insert, the sole, is that what it is?
Oh, I don't know. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
like it's literally the insert that's in the shoe is like supposed to be like comforting and like mushy, soft. I don't know how you want to describe it, but it's like a completely and totally different, like it's for running or it's for a casual, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, casual wear.
I don't know. Yeah, like Nikes, like a casual pair of Nikes, like I have Air Maxes, you know what I mean? Like those aren't built for training, they're built for comfortability, they're built for
Yeah.
fashionability. Fashionability, is that a word?
I don't know.
They're
It is
built for
now.
things of that nature, right? Yeah. So where like Vans are built for skateboarding, but there's obviously activity going on there. It's a flat foot,
Yeah.
right? Which may or may not be better, to be honest, for some people, right? Again, the Nike Romulos or the lifting shoes are built with a specific, degree of an angle or an arch, right? To be able to put you in a better position for more knee flexion and
Yeah.
extension, and to create a better environment for specifically squatting, and different leg movement patterns. But again, even barefoot for some people, might be a better option because some of the shoes that we have such a narrow, front that we can't
Yeah,
like
you
spread our
can't.
toes, and that might reduce balance or proprioception. Did I say that right? Proprioception, whatever. Your ability to be able to balance and have better external balance in terms of like managing the weight and things of that nature on squats, deadlifts, so on and so forth, right? So again, the shoes could matter for sure, but I've also seen,
Proprioception. Your body's ability
right?
to sense movement, action, and location. That's cool.
Yeah. So because again, you have more like surface area
Yeah.
underneath your feet. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
have, yeah. So but the bottom line there is shoes could definitely be important, but I've also seen people fucking squat 6 plates with a pair of Jordans on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I really think it's going to be dependent on the individual. And I know we say that a lot about everything, but I mean, really have to think about the fact that everybody's anatomy is completely and totally different. Like
Yeah.
even though I might be at my biggest, I'm 230 pounds. I'm obviously always 5'9". Marina at her biggest is what, fucking 155. And what's your height?
What a five and a half. Had to think about
So
that.
5'5.5". But yet from a length
150
perspective of
pounds. I'm
our
like 160, actually 161 this morning.
whatever, the bottom line is all I'm saying is still there's almost like a
Yeah.
100-pound difference there. But like the bottom line is, and what, 4 inches of height or something like that. The bottom line is your structure, right, is so much different than my structure. Your femurs might even be longer than mine, even though
Yeah.
I'm five
My
nine,
femurs are longer
right?
than Matt. We
Right.
always
And your
measure. I'm
your
like, what the
torso,
fuck?
your torso is shorter or longer than neck. Yeah, yeah. All these things matter.
Yeah.
That's why we have what's called like a kinetic chain, right? Where like all these things matter in terms of somebody's gait, like in terms of the way that somebody's hips and knees move together when they're walking, in terms of the way that somebody's knees and torsos go together in terms of when they're squatting and when they're extending. Like all these things are so dramatically different from body to body to body that somebody might need a flat-footed shoe, somebody might
Yeah.
need no shoes, somebody might need those Nike Romulos, somebody
Yeah.
might be completely totally fine using any sneaker whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that people get too caught in the weeds with, right? Like I had a
Absolutely.
client recently that was like, I'm going to spend, they sent me a picture of a pair of sneakers they were going to get. They were like $150. I had never heard of them before, actually. And I'm like, dude, why do you feel like you need those? They're like, shouldn't I be wearing better shoes? I'm like, how do you feel? Do you feel like you need better
Yeah.
shoes? Like you've never complained about any joint issues whatsoever. Like I don't think you need these if you don't feel like you need these. And they're like, well, I think, they were following somebody on Instagram and it really came back down to like, this person saying they're pretty good, that their joints have never felt better. I'm like, dude, you've never had an issue with your joints though.
Yeah.
Right. But it was like, whatever, they got them, they love them, and it is what it is. I'm not saying, but again, I feel like sometimes we get a little lost in the weeds based on the fact that nowadays there is something intricate for every detail,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, yeah, you can get so detailed if you want, but it's like, do you really need, what are those finger shoes that were popular for a little while?
I
You know what I'm
can't.
talking about?
Yeah. I can't. I don't know the name of them, but Matt actually has them.
Yeah, and I bet you he'd probably tell you that he loves them, right?
Yeah.
But
No,
it's
he
like
loves them.
he probably, in reality, doesn't notice any difference from before he started using them to after he started using
Yeah.
them. But yet he spent $80 to $130 on this pair of shoes. Then it's like, what did we really get out of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But
I
yeah.
wouldn't be worried about shoes. Feel good.
Yeah. Overall, like shoes you wear aren't 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 important to proper form if you have proper form.
Yeah. I've been wearing a pair of Vans for literally years at the gym. And when I say years,
Same.
I mean like as many years as I can go back and remember, probably since like fucking, I don't know. It's been a long time that I've been
Actually, I
wearing just
started
a
with
pair of Vans and just,
Converse. I started with Converse. I got tired of lacing them up, so I switched over to Vans in like 2019, and I just wear Vans.
but I'll be honest though, I've always felt uncomfortable in certain shoes. I have. And I never wore Vans because I thought that they were better. I've always wore like Vans have been a sneaker that's been in my life literally since I was like fucking 12 years old or something like that. I've been
Yeah.
wearing Vans in some
Yeah,
regard
I
or
don't know. I
another.
don't really pay
They were
attention
cool
to
when I
the
was younger.
comfortability. The only ones I'm like really comfortable in that I'll wear when I run errands or wear specifically when I do my steps are my New Balances.
Yeah,
Um,
but see, I wouldn't be able to train in a pair of New Balances though for
oh no, no,
me. Like
I do not train in New Balances.
so that's what I mean. Like if I'm worried about like comfortability in terms of like if I'm going on vacation with my family and I want to have a comfortable pair of sneakers, like I'll wear my fucking classic Reeboks of some sort, and I have like a
Yeah.
hundred pairs of them. But like literally, those to me are like the most. But I could never train, especially lower body, with those sneakers on. Like they're too comfortable. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like when I train, I do want something that's more like I don't know, stable. I don't know the right word for it. Honestly, all I know is if I
I've
tried
been
to squat in
wanting
those
what?
if I tried to squat in those, like my proprioception would be off. Like my ability, seriously, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel as confident or comfortable. Whereas when I'm wearing my Vans, I feel a little bit more stable and just like, I don't know, in a better position.
The dog is barking. Hold on. I've been wanting, I've been wanting to try Nobles for so long because everyone talks so highly of them. My mom actually bought them. She asked me like, "What cute gym shoes should I get?" Because she like has a personal trainer and she goes like to her little personal training classes. And I'm like, "Try the Nobles." And she got them and she's like, she got the ones with like floral on them and I'm like, "Wait, these are actually really cute." So I want to try them. I
I
probably won't ever because I'm stuck in my ways and I don't know.
I fucking hate those sneakers with a passion. I really
Have
do. I
you have
hate
you
them.
tried them?
I think I think they're disgusting looking. Christine actually bought me a pair one year for Christmas, but
Yeah.
for some reason, and this is where
I
remember
don't
we
think they're
talked
like
about Christine.
ugly.
I think they're hideous. I think they're
Okay.
absolutely completely totally hideous.
My
But
moms are
remember we talked
cute.
about Chris. Remember we talked about Christine being like the worst gift giver ever.
Yeah.
So she got me a pair of these Noble sneakers, which again I think are hideous.
I
Always
think
have,
that's a
right? She didn't
thoughtful
know,
gift though.
right? No, but hear me out. She got me ones that are donut donuts with sprinkles on them. Yeah, like that's literally like they were just white with like LGBTQ sprinkles all over the place, like rainbow sprinkles on them. I swear to God, and
Wait, wait,
like
wait,
and
wait,
they're
wait,
like
wait, wait,
literally,
wait, 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 wait. Did she think that you would wear
they,
those? Was it half a
yeah.
joke?
No, it was not. It was dead ass serious. Yeah. Not even close. Like not even like remotely. Like I opened them up and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Put them right to the side. Like, nope. Those are gonna have to get returned.
Oh God. Oh God. I actually did have one more though here. Back to talking about prep. What is the best or ideal time amount of weeks for a prep? It depends.
Again, very, very different, right? Like I have, like again, we were just talking about my client Jen, who's new to competing, right? Like I'll have her set up to be like I'll probably have her actual prep be no less than 20 weeks, right? Like she'll look like she's 20 weeks out, or she'll look like she's less than 20 weeks out, I should say. By the time we start at 20 weeks, like who knows, right? But I want at least like a 20-week window to be able to get her just because she's never been that lean. I don't know what we're going to encounter. I don't know how stubborn her body's going to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So like I'm going to have that window of time available before I would even consider, stepping on stage. So for her, it's going to be like a minimum of 20 weeks, right? For Riley, probably the same thing. I'd want around 20 weeks for him to be on stage because again, for him, it's like, there's a certain level of accuracy we're going to want with him being able to compete, and I'd rather have the added time available, right? I also have my client Raph that's going to compete this year, right? Raph is one where like I am 100% positive. We've done two shows, well, we've done 2 seasons together, multiple shows where he's been dead on, nailed, conditioning 100% on point and not the problem whatsoever. I will get Raph primed and ready for about a 15-week push, maybe 16, 15-week push into a show. So his prep is going to look like, whatever, 4 to 5 weeks less than the other people. And honestly, for him, that's going to give me more than enough time to be able to refeed him appropriately, keep a certain level of fullness, and make sure that he's stepping on stage 100% conditioned, right? But with every bit of graininess of fullness that he needs to be able to compete at his highest level. So it really does depend. Like we also have Marissa, who may or may not compete this year. I actually have to get back to a message from her, probably looking more towards next year than this year, realistically. But she's another one where she could I'd probably want a little bit more of an extended time frame for her, just because things we've encountered in previous preps. But she's also very, very lean on a regular, consistent basis, and there might not be a need for her to be in a deep deficit for longer than X time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, maybe it is only a weekend. But again, these are things that I know this based on prepping these people before, right? And not only prepping them, but really understanding like where their body's going to be best on stage in terms of like, does this person need to focus more on, we got to get lean enough soon enough so we can be more full on stage, like in Raf's case or in Marissa's case, you know what I mean? Versus somebody like Riley, where it's like, hey, we got to make sure that we bring in that last bit of conditioning that we have yet to accomplish. So I want a little bit more time frame with him to really keep him in those deep depths, maybe a little bit longer, to get some lines in his ass.
Got some heavy hitters this year.
Yeah. Well, we got very few competing this year overall, so it's nice to have some good ones competing.
I like it. I'm excited. I'm excited. Anything else to add to this all over the place episode?
No, I think but it was all over the place. We were answering questions. I think it was pretty good. It was easier
I think it
than
was good,
coming up
yeah.
with a topic. Yeah, it was easier than coming up with a topic and
True.
fucking going
Talking out
brain
of our
dead for
ass.
45 minutes prior to the podcast to try to come up with something.
Yeah. All right. So everyone, thank you for listening. Don't forget to tune into our Instagram lives at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. Submit your questions. That is where you can participate and such. But thanks for listening. Share, like, comment, and we'll catch you guys next week.